I'm Conor Benn, welcome to my gym.
People just talk about the power, obviously he's inherited his father.
I think weight classes do matter. I've always said I think Eubank is going to be super strong. He's coming up and he will be bull strong. To go with the aggression as well is a dangerous concoction. So, but, you know, if it was all about sheer power.
Conor Benn is leaving no stone unturned in his training camp as he prepares for the highly anticipated showdown against rival Chris Eubank Jr. After observing Conor Benn's intense training, Abel Sanchez predicts that Benn will stop Chris Eubank Jr. late in the fight. Sanchez believes that despite being the smaller fighter, Benn's strength and aggression will outpace Eubank, who he feels relies too much on his boxing skills. He anticipates a tough physical bout where Benn's relentless pressure will wear Eubank down for a late stoppage.
Do you foresee like Conor stopping Chris?
He stops him late. You're going to be looking at Conor Benn as being the smaller guy. He's going to be so much stronger than Chris Eubank because Chris really doesn't use his strength. He tries to use his boxing ability. He's got a nice jab. But he drops his hands and he's tries to be on his toes and tries to do things that is not going to be good against a Conor Benn. Conor Benn is going to attack from the first bell to the last bell, and he's going to push him around and muscle him around and foul him, and it's going to be an ugly fight.
On the other end, Peter Fury sees the fight between Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. as a true 50-50 contest. He acknowledges Benn's strength and aggression, but emphasizes that world-class boxing requires more than power. Fury believes Eubank's size and experience will help him handle Benn's early pressure, with the outcome uncertain over 12 rounds.
I think weight classes do matter. I've always said I think Eubank is going to be super strong. He's coming up and he will be bull strong. To go with the aggression as well is a dangerous concoction. So, but, you know, if it was all about sheer power and strength, it's only part of it. You know, there's other things involved in world level boxing. So Eubank's experienced. I think he's going to step back, he's going to try and catch him on the way in, try and cover him up, tie him up. I just think, and try and get Benn into middle rounds, you know, where Benn's obviously going to be pushing it. He's got to push it because he can't stand off Eubank. He's got to bring it. But bringing it and not having success, where it's hard, you're having a hard 5 or 6 rounds and the guy's fending you off and he's doing all of these things and he's a naturally bigger man, can take his toll. Can Eubank take the ferocity of Conor Benn? We don't know. Can Conor Benn do a 12-round fight being countered every so often coming in? Is that going to have its toll? That's why it's a genuine 50-50 matchup. It's what you go for.
However, Conor Benn's training camp has been intense and relentless as he prepares for the biggest test of his career. Focused on strength, endurance, and pressure fighting, Benn is sharpening every weapon. Surrounded by a top team, he's pushing his limits daily, determined to overwhelm Chris Eubank Jr. on fight night. After Eddie Hearn witnessed Conor Benn's exceptional training, he said he's never seen Conor Benn so focused and prepared. Benn has taken himself away from all distractions and trained like a beast. He's in the best shape of his life, sparring top light heavyweights like Bruno Suhr and William Skull. Hearn said Benn looks amazing and is ready to explode at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on April 26th.
I've never seen him prepared like this before. He's taken himself away from everything. He's been training like a beast. He's in the shape of his life, sparring Bruno Suhr, sparring William Skull, all these top light heavyweights. He is looking sensational.
On the other end, Spencer Oliver believes Chris Eubank Jr. is the more likely winner, highlighting his bigger frame, extensive experience, and history of competing against high-caliber opponents. Eubank Jr. has previously fought at 168 pounds, whereas Conor Benn is stepping up from 147 pounds, which could pose a significant obstacle for Benn.
I think Chris Eubank Jr. has to start the favourite. He's the bigger guy of the two. He's been the more tested of the two. He's boxed at a higher level. Conor Benn has had his troubles outside of the ring with the two failed tests that put him inactive. I mean, I know he had a couple of low-key fights, but not very active, not as active as he'd like to have been. He was boxing at 147. This is now up at 160. Anyone that will think, well, it's not that much of a jump. Trust me, it is for boxers. It's a huge jump, And Chris is a guy coming down from 168. He boxed George Groves at 168 in the World Super Series. And, you know, he boxed him at 168. He come back down to 160.
I never really fancied him at super middle, though, did you?
No, I didn't fancy him at super middle. He was too small against George Groves. We could see that. 160 is his weight. It is tough there. They put a rehydration clause of 10 pounds in there, but I don't think that'll make much of a difference, because 10 pounds is quite a lot of fluid to put back into the body.
Carl Frampton sees Eubank as the favorite, but he believes much depends on how Eubank makes weight and how he looks on the scales. The 10-pound rehydration limit could be tough for him. Frampton explained that Eubank has fought at 160, not 168, and as fighters age, they tend to go up in weight. He needs to see Eubank's weight before making a final prediction.
I think Eubank is the favorite, and a lot of it depends on how he makes the weight and what he looks like on the scales, and the 10-pound rehydration clause is going to be difficult for him. I've been kind of criticised a wee bit because I've been saying he's been boxing at 168. He hasn't. He's been boxing at 160. But the point I was trying to make was he has boxed at 168. And as you get older, you normally go up the weight. You don't come down the weight. So he's it's hurting him now to do 160. And I need to see what he looked like on a scale before I make a prediction.
Looking at Conor Benn's most dangerous traits, his punching speed is one of his most dangerous weapons. He throws sharp, rapid combinations with explosive power, overwhelming opponents before they can react. His fast hands allow him to close distance quickly and land clean shots, making him a constant threat in every exchange inside the ring. Moreover, Frazer Clarke sees the fight as a good matchup, despite concerns over weight differences. He believes the fight is even, noting that fighters from different weight classes can spar effectively. Clarke gives Eubank the edge due to his consistent high-level performances, feeling it's Eubank's fight to lose despite his loss to Liam Smith.
I think it's a good fight. You know, I see a lot of negative criticism about this fight with the weighters and everything. That aside, remember, I've been in gyms for years where I've seen people, two different weights, give really good work to each other. So I think it's a very even fight. I've probably got Eubank the favourite at the minute, just on. I think he's boxed a bit more consistently at a good level. I know we had the defeat from Liam Smith, but I think he's been looking very good and very relaxed his last few fights. I think it's his to lose, sort of, but
Clarke also acknowledges Conor Benn's determination, though he notes that sheer willpower doesn't always guarantee victory. He would have preferred to see Benn have another fight before this one to better prepare. In the end, Clarke believes the fighter who can best handle the pressure and occasion will come out on top.
With Conor Benn's determination and the way, well, I know determination don't always win you a fight, but you know, I think we'll see a different to him going into this fight. I would have loved to have seen him have another fight in the interim, do you know what I mean? And then go into this, but we are where we are, so I think listen, whoever can handle the occasion and everything that goes with it is going to prevail.
Ricky Hatton understands why many see Chris Eubank Jr. as the favorite, as he's battled top-tier opponents like Billy Joe Saunders and fought consistently at a higher weight. Meanwhile, Conor Benn is stepping up 2 divisions, and he hasn't yet faced anyone of that caliber. Still, Hatton believes Conor's self-belief, grit, and the same fighting heart as his father, Nigel Benn, could be the X factor that changes the fight's outcome.
A lot of people are favouring seem lately at the minute favouring Eubank, aren't they? And I get why they've done it, because I mean, let's have it right. Conor's not boxed anyone near Chris's potential. And when you think who Chris has beaten Billy Joe Saunders, at that level, I mean, that's at his own weight. So to jump up 2 weights and to fight someone like Chris, it is a massive ask. But I'm quite close to to Nigel and Conor, and I think in his last couple of fights he's not quite as explosive as he previously has done. But in fact that he's not boiling down, he's moving up in weight, and then Chris has to boil down that little bit extra. That'll help Conor.
Hatton also raised concerns about Eubank's weight cut. He pointed out past struggles, including in the postponed fight with Ben and the bout against Liam Williams, where weight issues contributed to his performance drop and eventual KO loss. If Eubank has similar problems this time, Hatton thinks it could open the door for Conor to pull off a big win.
But I just know because I know him personally, the desire and the self-belief and the drive that he has. He has this real will not be denied type of drive, like his dad, to be honest with you. And really I'm thinking that might just. And Chris has been, stopped. He's boiling down in weight. Last time he, don't forget the fight with Conor fell through. Yeah. And then he ended up, he was boiling himself down, and then he fought Liam, and I think that's why he got knocked out. Because he was boiling himself down, which is what he's doing again. So I'm going to go with my mate Conor. Yeah.
However, Conor Benn's power is also one of his biggest weapons, with his explosive shots capable of surprising even the toughest opponents. His youth brings added speed, energy, and endurance. Regular sparring with elite fighters has sharpened his technique, turning him into a fast, aggressive, and unpredictable force inside the ring. Moreover, Roy Jones Jr. sees the upcoming fight between Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. as an exciting matchup, highlighting Eubank's size and experience as key advantages. However, he warned that Benn's explosive punching power makes him dangerous, especially early on, and could shift the fight's momentum in an instant.
I think it's going to be a very good fight. Conor has punching power chances. Chris is the bigger guy, so you give Chris the advantage going in because he's a bigger guy, but Conor does have exceptional punching power, so it's going to be a great fight. I think Chris should win the fight. I think Chris should outbox him, outsmart him, but he will have to be smart early because Conor is a great puncher.
Shakur Stevenson, having sparred with Conor Benn, respects Benn's toughness and heart, but believes Chris Eubank Jr. is the more skilled and well-rounded fighter. While acknowledging Eubank's technical edge, Stevenson admires Benn's bold move up in weight and is rooting for him, recognizing the courage it takes to face such a challenge.
Chris Eubank fight over in the UK. Conor Benn and Eubank, both pretty big names, but Conor going up 2 weight divisions really to take that fight. You're smiling. So what's your take on that one?
I'm just smiling because I met Conor Benn. He a cool ass dude.
He is.
He's very cool. Everybody talk about how mean he is, but every time I ran into him, he was always a really cool dude. He always showed me good energy. But truthfully, with that fight, I think that's a hard task just because of Chris Eubank. He's a guy with subtle boxing skills. You ain't really noticing how good he is, but he's a pretty good fighter. So I think it's a hard task. Good luck to Conor. I can't really give you an answer on how the fight will go, but I'm rooting for Conor.
Darren Till shared his thoughts on the matchup between Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr., calling it an even contest. He admitted that Eubank Jr. had the advantage in experience and size, but predicted that Benn would come out on top. Till noted that a win for Benn could cast doubt on Eubank Jr.'s boxing future. However, he emphasized that a loss wouldn't take away from what Eubank Jr. has already achieved in his career.
Yeah. Maybe then you just don't know. Maybe where does he go from there if Conor beats him? I'm not trying to say Conor's any less of him, but Chris is obviously the guy who should beat him because he's a lot heavier, maybe more seasoned. But it's definitely a 50-50 fight in my eyes. I think Conor's going to beat him. So you can see where that thought process comes from. But who knows? I know Chris likes to play poker a lot, so maybe comes back for the money or something.
Teddy Atlas described Ben as a pressure fighter who likes to stay on the front foot, using his sharp technique to take control of the action. He thrives by staying aggressive and applying constant pressure. In contrast, Eubank tends to be more calculated, operating from the outside, picking his shots, and using awkward timing to catch opponents as they try to engage. His approach frustrates fighters who rush in recklessly.
You have Ben, who's aggressive, likes to be aggressive in a responsible way, but he likes to be on the offense. He likes to be the boss coming forward, and he has good skill sets, good technique. And then, of course, you have Eubank, who likes to control the outside. You know, he likes to snipe you. He likes to catch you coming in. You know, he likes to throw awkward, unorthodox shots at you from different angles. You know, and make it a fight where it's frustrating for you, where, you know, if you're coming a little over anxious, you know, he can catch you with a sniper shot. So you got two contrasting styles.
Atlas also touched on the size disparity between the two. Ben is naturally smaller, while Eubank has competed at a heavier weight. The catchweight bout isn't unusual in boxing history, as many greats have moved between divisions. Atlas pointed out that this adds another level of intrigue to the fight, with both boxers bringing very different styles and physical attributes into the ring.
It's a fight, and then you got the weight. You gotta figure that in too. Because you got Ben, you know, where he's a naturally smaller guy. Obviously, Eubank is naturally a bigger guy. You have a compromise in the weight. You have a catch weight. Yeah. But again, that's history. The history of this sport, you go back in the 20s to 30s, or even before that, catchweight fights happened all the time. You had lightweights like Sam Langford. You guys don't know Sam Langford.
I know.
Sam Langford, oh my God. Yeah. You got to talk about Sam Langford. Yeah. I mean, this is a guy that fought from lightweight to heavyweight, and he beat them all. I mean, so it's nothing new to have guys moving up or moving down in weight in this great sport.
Michael Watson expressed his respect for both Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr., describing them as talented athletes and wishing them all the best. When asked to pick a winner, he chose not to take sides, explaining that he couldn't support one over the other. Watson said he's excited for the matchup and expects it to be a thrilling fight.
The pair of them, they're my boys. They call me Uncle Michael. In due respect, that's what they call me. It's amazing how things work out. They're two talented boys, and we prepare them all the best. That's all I can do. Come from Uncle Michael.
Who do you think wins?
It should be a great fight. I can't pick a favourite.
I knew you'd say that.
I am on neutral terms.
You'll be watching it on TV.
I certainly will be. It should be a great fight.
Barry McGuigan is supporting Conor Benn, expressing concerns about Chris Eubank Jr.'s durability since his knockout loss to Liam Smith. He noted that Eubank's chin hasn't been as strong since that defeat. McGuigan believes Benn is faster, more powerful, and possibly stronger than Smith, giving him the edge despite Eubank's size.
I think it's a great fight. I would pick Benn at the minute, simply because Eubank was cracked by Liam Smith, and you know he was never cracked before, and it's a summary for me. He had a great chin up to then, and then he was knocked out, and it's never quite the same again. I think Ben is a more explosive fighter than Liam Smith. He's faster. He punches hard, but then, you know, good big one will always beat a good little one, you know, all those cliches. But I just think I would give Ben the edge. But, you know, Eubank's tough.
Tommy Welch praised Chris Eubank Jr.'s ability to box when required, noting that this skill might be crucial in the upcoming fight. Although Eubank enjoys a good brawl, both he and Conor Benn are instinctive fighters, and Welch anticipates they'll engage with great intensity. He expects the fight to evolve into an intense, all-out battle, particularly due to the rivalry and animosity between them, making it an exciting match he wouldn't want to miss.
Do you know, the nice thing with Chris is that he can box as well. like he can box as well, and he might have to do that in this fight. You know, if he sits in, but he loves to fight. Do you know what I mean? Both of these guys love to fight. Conor is a fighter. They're going to come and smash heads to each other, and they're going to stick a war on like we haven't seen for a long while. You know, between two guys that generally dislike each other. Do you know what I mean? So it's going to be a fantastic fight. I wouldn't miss it. Do you know what I mean?
Matt Macklin questioned Chris Eubank Jr.'s motivations, citing his age, 35 to 36, and decision to fight Conor Benn instead of pursuing a world title. He speculated that Eubank might be more driven by money than legacy, suggesting that financial incentives, while important, aren't the primary motivator for top fighters.
I think it all depends on what Eubank's got left, you know, which is very difficult to know. You know, what is he now, 36 coming, or 35, 36? Does he have the appetite for boxing anymore? I don't know. You know, he's gone for the Benn fight, hasn't he? As opposed to maybe chasing a world title shot. So, is it about money? Is it about being a world champion? I don't know what his ambitions are. That's motivating him now. It seems like it's money, and even though we all need money and want money and all the rest of it, it's not actually a great motivator.
Joe Gallagher raised concerns about Conor Benn's ability to overcome Eubank Jr., pointing out Benn's limited experience against high-caliber opponents. He highlighted Eubank's impressive wins over fighters like George Groves, Yildirim, and James DeGale, emphasizing that when at his best, Eubank's size and power pose a significant challenge for Benn.
And there's nothing to suggest, and this is nothing against Conor, he's coming around, there's nothing to suggest Conor can deliver, because no one's seen him in a title fight at Southern, English, British, European. They haven't, and looking at his last performance in America too that he had while this was going, there was nothing to suggest you could beat Eubank Jr. Now you look at Eubank Jr.'s resume, yes, he's 35, 36, but he was in the World Boxing Super Series against George Groves, a big super middleweight. He went to Turkey and knocked out Yildirim. Then he ragdolled James DeGale round the ring. He's got that experience, and when he's motivated and focused, we've seen what he did to Liam Smith. I think Eubank Jr. just think he's too big, hits too strong, and that's it.
Liam Smith contends that even tough fighters like Chris Eubank Jr. can be knocked out if the right punch connects. He challenges the notion that certain fighters are immune to being hurt, arguing it's naive to think Chris can't be stopped. Smith stresses that anyone in boxing, regardless of toughness, is vulnerable to a well-timed shot, and believes Conor Benn has the power to replicate his previous success against Chris.
Do I think Conor Benn can knock Chris Eubank Jr. out? Yeah, and let's go back to what I said before I done it. You're deluded and you're crazy if you think fighters of this level can't hit you on the chin and do damage to you. And I said before I stopped Chris, when you probably yourself and everybody else made out Chris can't be stopped to the head, I said, don't be fooled, and don't be so gullible, don't be so naive to think Chris is, you know, dynamite and can't. Chris is, you know, like iron and can't be knocked out. It's anybody on the chin with a sound glove on. But a shot you don't see can be knocked out, and I proved that with Chris, and Conor can do the same thing. Yeah, I think he hits hard enough to.
So what are your thoughts on this? Share your thoughts in the comments section, and make sure to subscribe and like if you enjoyed the video.